boy notices homeless man near school daily, takes one look at him, and calls 911. Josh was in a state of shock. He couldn't believe that he had been so wrong about the man that he had spent the last few days watching. He thought that his mind had come up with every possible scenario for the man's presence at his school, but he never expected things to be as bad as they truly were. After uncovering the truth, Josh knew that there was only one thing he could do. Trying to keep as calm and quiet as possible, he dialed 911. In a hushed whisper, he told the operator what he had uncovered. The woman on the other end of the line was just as shocked as he was, but she did her duty and dispatched officers to the scene. The homeless man didn't even see it coming. He was just standing there talking to a couple of kids when the officers arrived. His shock was written across his face, but the man didn't fight the officers. He just held up his hands and accepted the hand fate had dealt him. If only he knew what was really going on. Josh stood in the playground watching the events unfold, and he couldn't help but feel guilty about what he had done. The poor man was just trying to survive. Well, at least that was what everyone thought. But Josh knew better. He knew that calling the police was the best thing he had ever done. After that day, the homeless man never returned to the school again. Josh wasn't really sure what happened to him, but he knew the man's absence was for the best. At least that way, everyone would be safe, and Josh would have no reason to worry anymore. But what was this all about? What did the homeless man do to deserve this? Josh Marr had just started the new school year, and he had absolutely no idea what he was in for. He knew he was in for the experience of a lifetime, but nothing like this ever crossed his mind. At that point, all he was thinking about was what he would wear and how he would make a lasting impression. On that particular day, Josh was happier than ever. Yet, there he was, dressing up while his proud mom was busy preparing his breakfast. It was a day worth remembering, and he planned on doing exactly that. After Josh's parents got divorced, his grades started dropping dramatically, and during his final year, his teacher warned him that it was possible that he would have to repeat the year. But Josh pulled up his socks and studied as hard as he could. That, however, wasn't enough to set the teen's mind at ease. It was only when he attended the graduation ceremony that it finally sank in. And now that the day had finally come, Josh wanted nothing more than to fit in. And that was exactly what happened. The teenager was welcomed with open arms, and he couldn't be happier. His first day went off without a hitch. But there was still one thing that he needed for his new start to be perfect. Josh needed to make some new friends, but that didn't seem to be a problem either. Within a matter of days, Josh had his group, and things seemed to be progressing smoothly. But a few months later, things would take a strange turn, and Josh would be at the center of it all. It had been exactly 3 months since Josh had started school, and the teen was overwhelmed. His exams were coming up, and he was trying his best to avoid the mistakes he had made before. The truth was, he wanted to make a good impression, but he had no idea what he was in for. Josh had gone to sleep late every night during that period. He spent as many hours as he could studying, and because of that, he was a little dazed. But that wasn't all that was going on with him at that point. Josh had also cut himself off from his friends, and because of that, he managed to see things he would usually have missed. One day, while Josh was on his way home, he noticed something peculiar. There was a homeless man outside the school, and he was trying his best to interact with some of the other children. The sight stuck with Josh because he wasn't able to interpret it, and before long it was all he could think about. What was that man up to? Over the next few days, Josh kept seeing the man, and he started asking his friends about it, hoping they had some more information to go on. They didn't disappoint. Many of Josh's friends had seen the man, and some of them even had interacted with him. What did they have to say about their encounters? There were rumors circulating about the homeless man and his intentions. Some of Josh's friends thought that he might be trying to abduct one of the children. The rest of his friends thought that was a bit far-fetched. They said that the old man seemed to be confused, and it seemed like he had lost his way. Both ideas intrigued Josh, and because of that, his curiosity began to grow. He wanted to know why his friends had those assumptions, and then he wanted to find out what the man was truly up to. If he was really trying to abduct a kid, they would need to stop him before it was too late. So Josh decided to put his detective boots on, and he spent the next few days observing the homeless man and the interactions he had with the other kids. At first, he tried to remain hidden, but one day he decided to hear what the homeless man had to say for himself. With that, he approached the gate, and as he hoped, the homeless man grabbed him. "Please help me," the man said as his trembling fingers dug into Josh's skin. I've been asking them all, but none of them want to listen to what I have to say. I don't have any money, Josh said matter-of-factly. I don't want money, the homeless man snapped. And that was when Josh realized that his friends were right. After his interaction with the man, Josh started observing the situation, and he took his task very seriously. When he spoke to the man, he did seem to be confused. But Josh felt that there was more to this situation than met the eye. The man was up to something, and Josh was determined to find out what that was. There were two questions about the man that were constantly occupying Josh's mind. The first and most important question was, what did the man want? He was approaching the children daily, and his behavior would be considered weird under any circumstances. Was it really money that he was looking for? Or was there something more sinister going on? After his encounter with the man, Josh was sure that it was something more sinister. The man didn't ask for money or food. He asked for help. But what kind of help did he want? He never got to hear what the man truly wanted or needed help with. Like everyone else, he just assumed the man wanted a job or something like that. With his curiosity at its peak, Josh decided to pay more attention to the small details that were easy to miss. And he noticed that there was something strange about the man that had been hanging out at his school. There were minor things that weren't easy to notice, but the more time Josh spent watching the man, the clearer the discrepancies became. What was it that Josh noticed? He picked up on the fact that the man's hands were always clean, which was bizarre for someone living on the street. He also noticed that the man didn't drink alcohol or consume any prescription medication, and on occasion he would see the man heading into a shop even though no one had given him any money. But there was one thing that stood out above the rest. Josh noticed that the man had a lot of bruises marring his face and arms. If Josh didn't know any better, he would say that the man was either getting into fights or that he was being picked on. But Josh had seen that type of bruise before. It was on many of the series that he liked to watch, so he knew exactly what was happening. Josh knew that the time had come for him to act. If he didn't, there would be dire consequences. He watched on as the old man's legs became weak, nearly giving in beneath his weight. It was now or never, Josh thought to himself as he pulled his phone out of his backpack. There was only one person who could help now. Josh's conversation with the 911 operator was hushed. He didn't want anyone to know what he was doing, especially not the homeless man. This had to remain quiet until the officers arrived at the scene. If it didn't, things could go terribly wrong, and that was the one thing that Josh wanted to avoid at all costs. Within a matter of minutes, 3 police cars arrived at the school. Josh watched on as they approached the homeless man who was trying to speak to some of the children through the fence. The old man put up his hands the instant he saw the officers. That was the moment his entire life changed. The police officers were kind to the homeless man as they escorted him to one of the cruisers. He tried to explain the situation, but his words were muffled and his sentences made no sense at all. So the officers just treated him like they would an intoxicated person. They gently placed him in the back seat and left. Weeks had gone by since the homeless man was taken by the officers, and Josh hadn't seen him once. He knew that could only mean one of two things, and he couldn't help but wonder which it was. Has the homeless man passed away? Or was he somewhere receiving treatment for his condition? Josh simply didn't know. About 2 months after all this happened, Josh was called into the principal's office. When he got there, he saw the principal, his mom, a police officer, and a strange man he didn't know. What was going on? The principal told Josh to take a seat and then went on to explain that the stranger was the homeless man. Thanks to Josh's quick thinking, the officers managed to get him to the hospital in time. Now that he was cured of necrotizing fasciitis, more commonly known as flesh-eating disease that Josh spotted, he could return to leading a normal life, and he would start by accepting the janitor position the school had offered him.